Welcome to the second episode of Backyard Talks. Today we have with us Peyoti from Peyoti For President project. Peyoti is an international musician whose original compositions have resonated with audiences worldwide. From major European festivals like Glastonbury to extensive tours across the Americas and Asia, he's performed for over 20,000 alongside renowned artists, including Manu Chao, Iggy Pop, and Buena Vista Social Club. His music has earned widespread recognition, with regular airplay on BBC Radio and notable reviews in publications like Rolling Stone and The Independent. Recently, his music has been featured in Netflix productions and independent films. And he is a great artist, musician, and producer.
Nice to see you. Thanks for having me.
And he's about to release his best album ever that is coming this year. And
Hopefully. I have a little label called Sorted Soup Records and Music, but the likelihood is it will be released on another label. And at the moment, I'm in conversations with other labels. And the idea is it will be released the second week in May. That's the target at this moment. But it's a little bit up in the air at the moment.
Could you give us a backstory about this project? It seems like it's very up to date with the current event that is happening in the world.
I guess, yeah. I mean, the idea started 2021, just after when the world started to open up, and a lot of alternative people like myself were looking for places to go. A lot of people going to Mexico because it seemed to be a bit freer. There was not quite so much bullshit in terms of masks and spraying and restrictions. So I went to Mexico. And I spent about 4 months in Mexico, and I started to write the album on a rock in Zipolite in Oaxaca. And in one afternoon, slightly under the influence, I wrote probably 40% of all of the bass lines and the trumpets in about 3 hours in one massive download on a rock whilst facing the sea, with the waves splashing on the rock. And as I left the rock with all these new ideas which I'd recorded in my phone, I saw some graffiti on the wall, and on the wall it said, "Your comfort zone will kill you." And I thought, oh my God, like it's so profound. Maybe it will. So maybe I have to make this album to kind of counteract that, you know? So that's where it started, and a lot of it came that afternoon in Mexico. And a lot of the ideas were to do with what was going on at that time in terms of freedom, in terms of the whole COVID thing and the narrative that surrounded that. Peyoti For President has always been a bit of a Spanish project. It started with a lot of influence from bands like Los de Abajo, Ojos de Brujo, Manu Chao, in 2006 in London. And there was always a Spanish element, and right from the beginning there were lyrics in Spanish.
And you went on a tour with Manu Chao?
I provided, tour support 2007, in the UK. I think it was the Radio Linea tour in the UK. So that was a lot of fun. That's when we went from playing crowds of 150, 200 to crowds of like 5,000, 3,500.
And then you performed at Woodstock.
Yeah, that was a couple of years later, 2010 or 9, I can't remember.
10, I remember.
Yeah. You should be the manager. Yeah, that was a lot of fun in Poland. That was the biggest gig we ever did. There's a huge audience, and there's television and everything, so maybe 200,000, I don't know. I had a police escort with the band because we were late and we couldn't get through the crowd, so they called in the police and they put us in 2 police cars with the lights on the top, and we went racing to get to the stage in time for the performance, yeah.
You performed at many big festivals, right?
A few, yeah. We played quite a few between the years of 2009 and 2011. Rockwave Festival in Greece. We played with, I think we played just before Gogo Bordella in Rockwave, and quite a few others. It was quite a long time ago now, but yeah, it was quite a period and an interesting learning experience. Yeah,
But for now, maybe we could learn about your career, where you started.
When I was like 6 years old, I got into music. I got into Elvis Presley, and I always loved songs, you know. And all of his songs were written by other people. I don't think Elvis ever wrote a single song. Maybe he wrote one, but so right from an early age, I was exposed to the best songwriters, and I loved just listening to music when I was a kid in my bedroom, playing drums with felt tip pens on the back of vinyl covers, you know. I did a lot of damage in those days.
But you got access by then, right, to all these records, and who was supporting you, who was providing all these records for you?
No, I was using my pocket money, and I was just going to shops in the UK, Woolworths, and every weekend and just buying things. But I think I had a lot of vinyl given to me because people were giving away vinyl, and I got hold of a vinyl player. And I was also playing vinyl that people were just donating as well.
And then after that, so you accumulated a big listening experience.
Yeah.
And when you actually started to compose or write your songs?
I was about 9 years old, and it was before I could play guitar. I started to write before I had a guitar, just melodies in my head. And then my uncle said, "Hey, it's a good idea. Let's get this weirdo a guitar." So he got me a guitar for my birthday, and then I started to learn. So I had something to accompany the melodies, which I was writing. So I started around the age of 9.
And what was your first song about?
It was more of a classical thing. There was no words. And then not long after that, I started getting more into old R&B, rhythm and blues, the kind of music that inspired Elvis Presley, I guess, like 1950s blues. And then I started to write in that kind of vein when I was 13, 14, I guess.
And then you got your band?
I mean, I've been in many bands, you know. Peyoti For President started in London, in North London. What started it? I think what started Peyoti For President was the name.
So where can we vote?
Where can you... You can vote with your consciousness. I mean, the idea was never... Peyoti was never actually me. Peyoti was just the concept. You know, Peyoti was literally the psychedelic cactus that I imagined one morning could be a great president, if you like, to rule the world with peyote, mescaline consciousness. And I realized that the world didn't have to be like this, that it would be so much better if it was mescaline peyote consciousness, you know. And so that's what started. And then from there, the songs came. And then I started with a guy I met in front of King's Cross tube station. I didn't realize he was an immigrant, a Brazilian guy, and called Ulisses. And I met him. He looked a bit like a Brazilian Elvis Presley. He was a really handsome guy. And I just started talking to him, and he's like, "I play percussion." And I'm like, "I play guitar." I said, "Well, let's try something out, you know." So we started playing together. But I noticed pretty quickly that whenever we went somewhere, everyone seemed to know him in London. All these Brazilian people would come up to him. And as it turned out, he was the son of a very, very, very famous musician in Brazil called Bezerra de Silva. And Bezerra de Silva is like a people's hero, people's poet, famous for innovating the whole samba, a samba style of music. And this is the son of Bezerra da Silva. And he was living in London at the time. He was illegal. And Bezerra da Silva has released like 28 albums, something like this. And every Brazilian knows Bezerra da Silva. So everybody knew this guy because everyone knew it was his son. So wherever we went, no one was interested in me. Everybody was interested in this guy, you know. "Oh, Ulisses, you know. And the nightclubs would open their doors to him, you know. And then I realized, this guy is something, you know. So we started like this, just two people, cajon and guitar. And then we added a couple more people. I think we got a bass player from Australia, Cali. He had big ginger dreadlocks, quite a character. He was a vegetarian, and he was the strongest man you'll ever meet. Yeah, never let people tell you that vegetarians are not strong. This guy was like a horse. he could carry 2 sacks of rubble on one on each shoulder. And so then the three of us were playing around London under the name of Peyoti For President. That was like 2005, 2006.
I don't know your real name.
Yeah, it's not actually my real name, of course. Yeah, I've changed my name a few times. I was born one name, and then I was adopted. So when I was 1 year old, they changed my name, and then I had another name later. So I've had 3 official names.
You traveled the world quite a lot, and did it reflect on your own art?
Yeah, definitely to an extent, I would say. Yeah, I mean, in the early days, I was just into American and British kind of pop, rock, blues, and then I started to go to Cuba around, I don't know, the year 2000, I think. And I went quite often. And that's when I really started to discover Latin music in Cuba and the romantic, beautiful, melodic changes and the rhythms, which were completely different to what I was used to. And it was this music I was combining with what I already knew to create the early days of Peyoti For President.
The themes of your songs, they sound very current time concern things, right?
Yeah, that day on the rock in Oaxaca, with just the sea in front of me, I would say at least half of the song titles came in that 3-hour download, you know? And of course, everyone was talking about COVID and the vaccine and, so My Body, My Choice, which of course relates to informed consent from medical practices. You have to have information and then you have to consent. And so this phrase is lent from I think it's the pro-abortion movement, no? My Body, My Choice. And so I just adopted this phrase to associate with the COVID vaccine. You Were the Revolution, I don't think that came a bit later. But of course, I have a lot of friends who think similar to myself. So in discussions, we we talk about all sorts of things. And when I hear a name that sounds like it could be a good song title, I write it down. I guess one of the most important songs is Palestinian Children. Palestinian Children, I wrote like 10,000, 15,000 feet above the ground. It's the only song I ever wrote completely from start to finish in an aeroplane coming back from England back to Portugal, where I live now. And it started just weeks after the whole invasion of Gaza started, and people were being killed. I had this song come in because we were so upset. So many people were upset, like myself, about seeing the suffering in Gaza, especially the children. No one likes to see children being murdered in such a way, and I think a lot of people are traumatized still by this, and they will be forever. I know I will. And so, yeah, this song came as a result of that. And Palestinian Children, which we've released already, has about 70,000 plays across all platforms. And I would love it to get out there even more, because I think people that hear it, they can relate to it, and it kind of brings up compassion in most people that hear it. So that was Palestinian Children. But the first song that we released, which is the only other song that we have released as a single off the album, Vamos a Nadar, which is Let's Go for a Swim. Mm-hmm. The idea of jumping into the sea and being inspired by whatever you find as part of a swim. As it turns out, this is the album, so it's inviting you to come and take a swim with Peyoti For President and see what you find in the album, But the really cool thing about that song is on the day when I started to write the album, I also heard this crazy laugh coming from the beach. And I had a couple of friends who I knew were in Mexico, but I didn't know were on this beach in Oaxaca. They called me over. They noticed me. They noticed the cap. I think I was wearing the cap. And I was, oh, Peyoti. And there was a crazy cackling, laughing Mexican girl with them that I heard. Her name is Ceci Mesa. And she was such a character and she had such a great laugh that I said to myself, I want to use this laugh. I want everyone in the world to hear this crazy laugh. And so on this song, Vamos a Nadar, you can hear her laugh. And we met that afternoon. We became friends. We're friends now. She came to visit me here in Portugal a couple of weeks ago, and she's on a couple of the other songs as well. Tolerance was a song that we wanted to write a song, myself and Mark, my co-producer, that amplified human virtues. If you're aware of how powerful just a single word can be, like the word hate, for example, there's a lot of power in just words, single words. So we wanted to counteract that and use positive words like kindness and love and peace and patience and tolerance. So we wrote a song, we started to write a song, an idea that would be called Human Virtues. And actually, so I had a whole list of human virtues. And then it was a friend, a pro-Palestinian friend, who said to me, you missed the most important word off the list. I said, what's that list? And he said, tolerance. What the world needs is tolerance. And yeah, it struck me. I'm like, hey, you're right. Yeah, okay. So the song developed and we added the word tolerance. And then in the end, we just decided to change the song title completely to tolerance, or tolerancia in Espanol. And all of the words we changed to Spanish. And so the patience, it's paciencia, caridad, etc., charity. And so one of the early songs was a song called Together. And I thought it was important that we talk about togetherness. I was reminded of traveling through Mexico on a bus with a couple of people that I met on the bus, one of whom was very sick as we were going up the mountain. But nevertheless, it was a long journey, like 8 hours. And I was reminded of, being together on a bus, but together in the kind of greater scheme of things,
Mm-hmm.
And so when you hear that song, if you imagine being on a bus in Mexico, you're not far from the truth. That's kind of where it came from. Of course, your comfort zone will kill you is an obvious one because it comes from the graffiti that was on the wall in Mexico, which was in English. But to begin with, we were going to call the album, and we're still not too sure, Controversy. But there's a Prince album also called Controversy, I think, no? And because it's quite controversial, some of the subject matter in the album, So that was an idea originally, and we're still not too sure. The other title was the Mexico Files, like the Mex Files, because most of the songs were started in Mexico, And at the moment, it looks like we're going to call the album Your Comfort Zone Will Kill You.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah,
I
you
think
think
that's a
so?
good one. Yes.
People seem to like it, no? I mean, what?
Yeah, it's catchy, very catchy.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So let's go with that then.
Your comfort zone will kill you.
Other songs, and actually, Yo Soy Bohemio was written in Cuba last year. That's the start of it came 12 months ago. I was someone had invited me to come into a primary school. One of the teachers said, hey, come and have a look. And I came into the school. He showed me around. There was the kids had just left. And I got the whole idea for the melody and the title in about 1 minute as a little download, if you like. That's how I get most of the songs, a very quick download. And if I don't capture it quickly on my phone, if I don't record it, I forget it.
Mm-hmm.
So I realized this was a little song coming through, Yo soy un bohemio in exilio, in exile, a bohemian in exile. So I recorded it as a vocal memo on the phone in Cuba, and that's probably the most recent one. That was like 12 months ago.
There was some more tracks, right? The Freedom. I witnessed the recording of some
Yeah, you did.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, of course you did, because we recorded some trumpet that night. And
No,
yeah.
it was what? And the violoncello.
So this idea that you cannot conform your way out of oppression, out of what does a dictator do? He not only oppresses, but he kind of, it's a really strong word. So along with this comes the idea of freedom, no? What is freedom? What is personal freedom? How do you feel free in your own mind, The Freedom Song was an obvious one. The funny thing there's a few funny things with the Freedom Song is to actually say the word freedom in a way where you really mean it is kind of not so easy. It took me 2 hours to record myself in this room screaming the word freedom. Freedom! it's like, what's his name of the barbarians, freedom. It needs to be heartfelt. And so you have to get out of the studio and into a place where you're really crying for freedom, and feeling freedom. And then, as you know, because you were here in the studio, I needed a little bit of cello, and I really, as many of the songs feature women, there's a lot of girls screaming, and I mean that in the best possible taste.
See, I understand.
We're quoting quite a few Martin Luther King and a few other amazing freedom fighters from that time over the years. And the freedom song is perhaps the most influenced by cumbia of Mexico and cumbia of Colombia. And in fact, some of the music was written in Colombia as well. My old bass player from my London days lives in Bucaramanga in Colombia. I go to visit him, and he was always saying, hey, you need to write some more music influenced by the music style, the genre of cumbia. So the freedom song is very much my take on cumbia and my dedication to the freedom movement. But the whole album is dedicated to the freedom movement, the growing body of people who are switching off the mainstream media, switching off their television, and they're listening to other sources of news. So you've got your Joe Rogan crowd, your Russell Brand crowd. I actually met Russell Brand in 2008 or 2007 in North London. We did a gig together.
Really?
Yeah, and he was one of the most incredible men. I mean, for me, the minute you met him, within 5 minutes, you realized he was a bit of a genius. He was incredible. He was a real intellectual.
Mm-hmm.
He wore his heart on his sleeve. There was no pretense. I didn't detect much pretense. He was just naturally a very arty kind of guy.
What kind of gig was that?
It was a gig in I can't remember, in a theatre, and it was just a gig where there were many acts, and Russell Brand was the host. So he was the guy kind of like presenting the acts, in his own wacky and amazing way. And I was singing early Peyoti For President songs.
What have you sang?
I sang No Me Siento Malo, which was the biggest song we had at the time, We the People, which consequently we changed the name. I changed the name from We the People to Your Number Is Up, all about the corrupt politicians, but in a fun way with batucada. And I sang a few songs. I think I was playing on my own that night. And Russell Brand was it was just a pleasure to meet him. And one of my female friends was actually kind of seeing him, I think, at the time. I'm not going to say what her name was, just in case. But I think it wasn't the only girl he was seeing at the time. I mean, Russell Brand is known for his kind of sexual vitality,
Yes.
And he certainly was at that time, 2007, 2008. And I just realized, and if anyone doubts whether he's authentic or not, in my opinion, Russell Brand is one of the most authentic people. He's not in with any, secret agenda or anything like that. I think he's genuine when whatever he's calling for, he really wants to change the world in a good way, or just encourage people to wake up, and do something and get involved. Yeah, it's incredible the vocabulary that the guy has, isn't it? He can just talk and use some of the most incredible words in succession, firing these words super quick. And that's the real Russell Brand. That's what he was like when I met him. That's what he's still like. Yeah, the last song on the album, You Are the Revolution and Resist Pushback, were the last two to be written. They're the last two to come in, although the horn sections for both of them were already written. The horn section for Resist Pushback, I wrote 22 years ago. It was one of the first things, was it that long ago? It was one of the first things I ever wrote with this kind of Latin flavor. And I kind of dug it up again and reinvented it to use it again, the horn section, slightly modified on this song. So Resist Pushback is kind of self-explanatory. And the funny thing is we really had no idea the arrangements for this song. And then I came in the studio one day and Mark was just playing some piano. And he was playing essentially the horn section, the melody of the horn section. And he was just in his own world. And it was beautiful. So I said, man, please, record some of this. And he was so simple to record it. And I didn't disturb him. I just let him go. And he played for about 5 to 8 minutes, something, just playing, and I just kept quiet, and we weren't too sure if we would ever use it. But at the end of the day, in the mix, I had some of his playing, and it was so nice when we realized this song has to go at the end of the album. This song is like our final farewell to the freedom movement. To anyone who's thinking of, if anyone wants to take power from this album and influence, this is our final farewell to them. Resist, push back, hold your ground. Know who you are, know your place, and just to have this bit of piano on the end where Mark was playing, after all of the madness of the album, all of the craziness, even the craziness in this song, where you have like this mad, crazy moog noises. You have a little bit of ukulele in the middle part as well. You have a big horn section. You have lots of crazy stuff, even in this song alone. To finish with one guy and a piano, for me, was just beautiful. So in the end, we decided to use this bit of piano on the end, as if after all of the musicianship, there's just one guy. And at the end of the day, there's just you, and you have to make a choice for yourself. What are you going to do with your actions? What are you going to do with your consciousness? And to me, all of that was summed up in this pianist playing the whole album out to the end, to the final bar, So yeah, that's quite, and that finishes the whole album. Yeah, it's a little bit theatrical.
Yeah.
And to be honest, now I listen to the album, because only in the last 10 days have I listened to the album myself from start to finish. And it almost feels like it could be a theater production.
Yeah, like a rock opera.
Yeah, like a rock opera, because every song almost has its own identity. Every song has a theme, and you can imagine visually a set. And in this song, you can imagine a whole set. So you start with "You Are the Revolution," which you could have like Che Guevara, iconic images of people, realizing that they are the revolution, they are the people. It was Gandhi who said, "Be the change you want to see in the world." No, or it could be a music film. Yeah,
Musical.
yeah, musical would be amazing. I mean, that would be such an honor if they made the whole album into a musical, but use the actual tracks. I don't want any of these kind of like remade, trashy, and there's middle of the road remixes with it. No, I want the show.
You could add dialogues between songs, maybe.
No, I mean, people think they are free. They are not.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, you could. I mean, there is a bit of dialogue between songs. On this album, there's 3 segues. One of them is just a talking piece just before freedom. One of them is Tolerancia, and the other one is kind of Vamos Nadar. It's kind of like a filler track, a segue track. A friend of mine called it a palette cleaner. So it kind of cleans the palette. It's ready for the next song. And I think, let's make it into a musical. It'd be fun. It'd be fantastic, no? Oh, it could work. Okay, I'm going to leave that with you.
Yeah, we can think about it.
But we have to keep the word. I mean, I think interesting thing about the song "Freedom" is that, as with a girlfriend, then we were halfway through the recording the song "Freedom," and I was in Lagos. And I'd got a little speaker, and I was playing her the song as it was in Lagos on a table. And the word only appears in this song, and it appears 4 times. And I was playing the song, and I said to her, but we have the word in this song. Do you think that's a bad thing? It appears 4 times. And before she could answer, there was a British couple on the table next to us in front of this cafe in the street. And the guy's like, "Why shouldn't you use the word?" He was listening to the conversation. He said, "The world is top. If it's top, say it. It's top, so say it." I'm like, okay, it's top, yeah. So okay, we keep one of the words. Keep all the ducks. Okay, all the ducks. Yeah, all the ducks. So okay, go. We're gonna keep all the ducks. So my friend Patricia, she's like, okay, whatever he thinks. Okay, important thing for people watching this. I would like, in a way, to keep the whole record label independent. We have our own record label. In a way, I'd like to release it myself, But at the moment, I'm looking for another record label, so I'm going to decide in the next month, next 2 or 3 weeks, But if we do it ourselves, we're going to need some money for PR, for pressing. We're going to press vinyl as well, and just public relations in general and marketing and stuff like this. So at the moment, as we sit here, I'm not too sure if we release it ourselves or if we release with another label. We have 2 labels interested, and let's see. But what I would really love is, I can guarantee you this will be the last album from Peyoti For President, from this project ever, if it doesn't succeed in some way, because it's a huge job, I don't know if we can tell your listeners, but the room that we're in at the moment, this has been my living space for the last 2.5 years. I sleep on the floor, more recently with my cat, who's adopted me, who I found outside, and it's a huge sacrifice. We're up at the moment as we do this recording, we're on top of a mountain, or halfway up a mountain, in the wild,
In the woods, yes.
in the woods. Sometimes there's wild pigs go outside the door. When you walk outside at night time, you have to be careful you don't step on a toad, because we have huge toads that wander around in the night. And it's it's a kind of huge, it's been a huge sacrifice making this album. This album would never have happened if it hadn't been for 2 things. Number one, my visit to Mexico, that rock on the sea, in the Sea of the Dead, Zipalete. Let me just remind myself, I have a friend from Mexico City, and she said, it's the Zapoteca tribes that used to be in this region, still are to an extent, their ancestors. And the other reason, and I believe that perhaps the spirits of the Zapoteca were kind of like encouraging me to write something on that day. That's what I feel, because never before in my life have I written so much in 3 hours. I literally wrote parts of 6 songs or 7 songs in 3 hours on a rock.
That was a flow.
It was a big, ridiculous flow, of information, and you could really tell it was pretty incredible. And the second thing that was really important for this album is the meeting with Mark.
And Mark Manningman, who was here in our premiere episode of Backyard Talks, where I talked to my neighbors, and he is working now with Peyoti. They're co-producing Peyoti's For President album.
Yeah, it's kind of finished. Well, it's finished as of last week. We got the mastering back from London, from Metropolis Studios. They've mastered it. I want to say a personal thank you to Mark, because without Mark, it wouldn't have happened in every sense of the word. Mark is a beautiful guy to work with. He's very relaxed. He brings out the best in you. He's co-produced this album, all of the keyboards, many of the ideas as well. Even some of the shouting in the background, even some of the hooks and things probably were Mark, either deliberately or by accident. But no, seriously, Mark is an incredible guy to work with and a great producer. He has a beautiful working space full of light, and big thanks to Mark. So for the future, it depends what happens in the next year with this album. Let's see. I'm also in touch with a couple of film companies, a couple of music supervisors. So it would be nice if one of the songs gets used on a film or a TV series, and if we could make some money as well, because we do need money for the project. It's nice to be independent. It's nice to be part of the freedom movement, but ultimately, the project still needs money to do what everyone. It shouldn't need to be said, but as a professional musician, someone like myself, I have to earn money from this. Otherwise, the whole thing just collapses.
I personally wish you super luck with this project. I hope all stars align this. And I will leave all the links in the description for Peyoti For President project, links to your websites where you can find his contacts.
So I'm asking you now, if you can, subscribe to Spotify and YouTube, and share the 2 songs which are already released, which will be on the album, Vamos a Nadar and Palestinian Children. Share them with whoever you think is going to like them. And hopefully by May, we'll have the whole album out. It's going to be amazing. You're going to love it. And thank you for your encouragement.
And all good luck. I already subscribed to all your channels.
Beautiful.
So you guys do the same, please. All links are in the description. And we wait for your album. And so far, we can enjoy 2 published tracks.
Yeah.
Go check them and share them. Looking forward to hear the whole entire album.
Fantastic. Soon enough.
Thank you very much.
Beautiful. Thank you. Muito obrigado.
That you've been waiting for.
Oh, hi. Is this the train to the revolution?
Why, yes, my lady. And you're right on time.